Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Talking God and Politics and Israel and all kinds of stuff that you're not allowed to talk about at work, but you can talk with us about all that stuff. And of course,
That's
I'm
right.
with my wife Denise, and that's Mark over there, and my name's Mike. And Mark, how you been?
Good.
How was your vacation?
Oh man, it was great. We had a good time. It was short, but that's okay. We 3 days down in the sun next to the beach, even if it was not warm enough to get in the water, still nice. I'm not complaining.
Nice.
So yeah, it was good.
You probably would have got stung by a jellyfish anyway, so it's all good.
Yeah, that's true. I'm not a big. I'll tell you. I mean, I can sit on the beach in the ocean, but I'm not a big beach person. My wife is absolutely. My kids love it, but I'll only hang out for you can get me for maybe an hour and a half, and then I'm like, all right, I'm done. I gotta go do something else. On to something else. Let's go.
Yeah, I only went for the volleyball because I played in high school and a little bit of junior college, and so I'd go down to the beach and play tournaments and stuff like that. But I didn't like going out in the water because when I was younger, I was boogie boarding. I was probably about 10. And I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was a massive fish, a shark, or a dolphin, but something huge, just the size of my body, just slithered all along the side of my body.
Oh, man.
And I just remember, coming to the shore. I didn't really go out in the water that much after that incident.
Oh, dude, that'd freak me out. Yeah, without question.
So anyway, but we've got a lot going on in the world.
Oh man, it's been an interesting week. There's no doubt.
Yeah, why don't you hit it off with this canal and the Houthis?
Oh yeah. So Trump has done something that I'm not surprised about. Now, depending on which way it goes, he could totally ruin his legacy. Mm-hmm. The drums of war are being beaten to go into Iran. I think his cooler head's going to prevail. And not that he, in his last term, that he didn't attack, other countries. And when I say he's a peace president, he tries to avoid war, but he will absolutely, attack certain areas within the Middle East if his arm's twisted by some foreign country. And I think that's what's going on with Iran and this whole thing with the Houthis, whatever. And I did find it interesting that it was on X and someone actually put out and said, well, the reason this is going on is because the port of Eilat, however you pronounce that, is shut down. It went bankrupt in June of 2024. Now, the Houthis had started attacking ships coming in. Now, what this port is to Israel, it's one of their 3 or 4 ports that they have, but this one is on the opposite end, so it avoids going through the Suez Canal. So it was a pretty important port that they received automobiles, food, steel, manufacturing equipment, things like that. Mm-hmm. And this organization, the Houthis, I guess, figured that out, and they started attacking ships. Well, ships stopped going to that port, and eventually nothing was going in and out of that port. And they said around November of 2023 is kind of when it went silent. And I didn't do enough. I still need to research a little bit more on who owns that port, what goes on there, and what companies are involved. I think that would be interesting. But anyway, by June of 2024, this was 2023 in November. 2024 in June is when they declared bankruptcy and it ended. And the post on X was like, well, this is the reason that this is getting all, the drum is being beaten to not only take out the Houthis who are being financed by Iran, but then that's just the first step. And then, of course, going into Iran. But I'm holding out hope that Trump is not going to move in that direction.
Well, I have an interesting point of view that I came across on one of my Telegram channels that I thought I would read just to get the opinions of you two guys. I hadn't even considered this. Didn't even cross my mind. This person, their handle is Patriot Underground.
Give them the context. The context is about the globalists. And we tend to kind of see them as one united front, but that's not necessarily the case. So she's going to read something in there.
Okay.
And it does, it does have to do with the conflict going on. This says, important to remember, there were two opposing sides within the cabal. The Soros-Brzezinski Grand Chessboard wing as one side, and the Zionist Israel First wing. Both sides shared the same New World Order ideology of eliminating nationalism and populism as a way of destroying the concept of sovereignty, but also clashed over the notion of Israel as their base of operations. In many ways, what we are watching play out are the optics of the white hats pitting one side against the other, using the shield of anti-Semitism to gut the NGOs and eliminate the woke ideology brainwashing, which is representative of one wing of the cabal, while at the same time releasing damning information about Israel, in addition to staging the Wag the Dog war in Gaza, stemming from the fake 10/7 attacks. In essence, the white hats are using the opposing sides of the cabal to expose each other. The release of the JFK files is intended to red pill the public about Mossad's role and the CIA's subsequent cover-up, while at the same time inducing the all-important cognitive dissonance in the public consciousness by having Trump continually referred to Israel as our greatest ally. This is why Israel is being saved for last. Public opinion is very rapidly shifting against them, but it has not yet hit a critical mass, which is necessary to move forward with full disclosure. Trump knows this intimately well, given the massive portion of his base made up of Zionist evangelical Christians. I do believe that this is the reason that the Epstein files have not been released yet, and why Trump said it was his priority to get the JFK files out first. At least 40 to 45% of the public is still in strong support of Israel, although I do believe that number is going to drop lower after the JFK file release, all by design. And once it hits single digits, that will be the moment when they expose the Zionist role in 9/11 and quarterbacking Epstein's honeypot operation.
You said 45%? That seems low to me. That support
that still support Israel. It seems low to me as well. Yeah, I would say more than that.
But let's talk about that group again. Whether it's 45%, 50, 60, these are evangelical Zionists. These are people that have been for decades and, for 190 years, well, actually 198 years to be exact, have been funded by the Rothschilds. It's a heresy. It's a cult. They've grew up in this. They think this is Christianity. They think that they are on the leading edge of Christianity. They interpret the Bible literally, and everyone else doesn't. And everyone else is liberals except for them. That's the way they think. Trust me, I went to Bible college in this mentality. I know exactly what they think and why they think what they do. But you cannot convince them. If you prove to them that Israel is killing Christians, which is really easy to do, Jerry Falwell had no problem with that at all. He said that even those Christians, they're sitting on Israel's land, so they kind of deserve to be killed, right? So if that doesn't red pill them, Israel killing other Christians, do you think that evidence coming out that Israel killed a U.S. president is going to phase them? Because this is what they do. The more you prove how evil Israel is, in their mind, it buttresses their view. That's right. That's why the Antichrist is going to come from them.
They're going to find a way to.
They find a way of twisting it and massaging it in. That's why we call it newspaper eschatology, right? It's It's whatever's in the news somehow is going to get shoved in Matthew 24 and the book of Revelation and everything else. And so no matter if you paint Israel good, oh, that must mean that they're having a revival over there and Jesus is coming soon. Or Israel's really bad. Oh, yep, Antichrist is about ready to get revealed. I mean, it's happening.
Yeah.
That's just how they think. So this is the greatest part of this whole part of red pilling on the whole Jew issue.
Yeah, they're gonna be the last ones. They're gonna be the holdouts for sure. And I bet that 45% is actually the evangelicals, and that's the target. And the rest of the population is, small percentage like us. Probably the little larger percentage of people that really don't care. And then you've got the ones that aren't Christians or really religious at all, and they still are they support whatever narrative comes out of CNN. But it is interesting with this release. It's going to be curious to see who on the right, the neocons, like Hannity and those others, will they even talk about the little blurb in there of the Jews? And I'm hoping you've got a clip of that. If not, I'll search it while we're talking. I want to find that. I think Stu Peters brought it up a few times. But anyway, that's what it's going to be interesting to see who. They're all going to say CIA, but who's going to take it to that next level to say, oh, and Israel?
See, I'm a little skeptical on this because they've had so many years to destroy whatever documents they've wanted to destroy. So I think whatever's there is what they want us to see. And here's why. Mm-hmm. They've given us a little bit. So far, everything I've seen is just a little bit on Israel. It's not enough to make the case. You've got some circumstantial evidence. Of course, you have more evidence for the CIA's involvement. But you've got some, but not enough, in my mind. But let's talk about the evidence that is there that's coming out so far. So, about a year before Kennedy is assassinated, we have the mafia. We've got drug running from Texas, sending machine guns into Israel, kind of a weapons network that's going on there that's illegal. And they talk about how Israel or the Jews are their new financial backers. So we have the Jewish mafia involved with the CIA and the mafia here. And then it talks about
you're referencing the Khazarian mafia, correct?
Yes. Yeah. And then they talk about whether the CIA or the Jews or Israel takes care of Kennedy. Clear indication there of assassinating Kennedy. So we have all this evidence. Kennedy didn't want them to be a nuclear power. We have the guy in the CIA, what's his name again? That had a really good relationship with Israel.
Then he was assassinated. Was he that you're talking about the guy that brought up the fact that
is it Rosenberg or what's that guy's name? Anyway, well, he's the guy that sold all of our secrets to Israel, and he was the head of the CIA. He gave Israel all the secrets to our nuclear stuff so that they could become a nuclear power, which was really treason because Kennedy said no, but he's the one that's doing this. See, and so Israel had all the motives to do this. And when the CIA is saying, we're going to give you all the documents, but we're going to black out everything regarding Israel, and they're not censoring or trying to black out anything else, that does point to Israel in most people's minds.
So I've only seen one link to the actual document itself, and I didn't actually look at that. I was kind of reading what everybody else was saying about it. There's no doubt that there's probably a lot of redacted stuff in there. I think Stu Peters, showed a few things where I think people are going to, at least this will kind of start the question. And it is interesting, Denise, that article that you read, maybe this is what tees up, for then Epstein, they dropped the bomb with Epstein and it just kind of builds from there.
Right.
I don't know. That's kind of, I'm kind of hoping that's how it's going to work, to kind of ease people into the idea that, look, which by the way, is our greatest ally. Okay, if they're our greatest ally, what have they done for us?
Right.
That term here recently has just been thrown around like crazy, and I'm going, okay, if they have been, what have they given us money? They've done nothing.
Nothing.
And let's just take all of this quote unquote conspiracy stuff out of the way. Okay, what are the facts? What have they done to support us? Nothing.
Yeah.
They're not our greatest ally. That's just rhetoric to get you
they
on
perform
board.
False flags on us. They attack us.
Yeah.
They attack the U.S. liberty. They knew about 9/11. Now I don't know if we can prove that they did 9/11, but we can prove that they knew 9/11 was going to take place at least 2 hours before it. Well, even longer than that, because we have documentation where they were telling some of the Jewish employees not to show up to work that day because something really bad was going to happen. We have the Jews, the billionaires who own the Twin Towers. We have Benjamin Netanyahu writing a book years before saying that, the Muslims were going to fly planes into the Twin Towers. I mean, you look at all of that evidence, it just adds up over time.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say it's fairly easy to find the proof around the fact that right before it happened, there was a big Jewish business there, and they told them, do not go into work on this date.
Mm-hmm.
You can find that pretty easy. But I've also heard, and I've seen the video, and I tried to find it again, and a little more difficult is one of the Mossad agents was actually holding a lighter up to both of the buildings.
Oh yeah, they were dancing. They have.
So I haven't been able to find that video in a while, but that's out there somewhere.
Oh yeah, they knew about it. They were documenting it. They were celebrating it. They had a moving company that was filled with Mossad agents, and they were going into government buildings. And then on 9/11, one of their vans was pulled over, and it had explosives. And you can clearly see demolition, at least in Building 7. I mean, you have to be stupid at this point to not see how they were involved in some way. So, yeah, you're right. They offer nothing to us except
nothing. It doesn't make
sense.
I hate, man, every time I hear that now, it's like when I hear the word democracy, I'm just like, come on, guys. This is ridiculous. But back to the JFK thing, there's been so many books written over the years. And not that I never really got into the whole JFK thing. And but a lot of people have read a lot of books on this stuff. They've wanted to figure out the truth. My question is, did any of these writers that have been researching this ever put Israel as playing a role in this assassination? You watch Oliver Stone's movie. It's all about the CIA and the mafia, the Italian mafia. And that's kind of, for me, just being on the sidelines, hearing people that are interested in it and read about it, talk about it. That was the two big things that came up, was CIA and Italian mafia.
David Icke he wrote a book on it, implicating Israel. You mentioned Roger Stone. I've never heard him talk about Israel. I've criticized him on his wall for that, but he did I think it was today, he started talking about Israel and talking about what's coming out. So I think in his mind, he didn't want to mention it at all until the actual evidence started coming out. Yeah. And probably because he has such a strong relationship with Trump that, he can't blow that relationship, because if he was anti-Zionism at all, that relationship with Trump would go away. Right.
So I've got a couple of videos around just this whole, Iran, and kind of jumping off of JFK for a second.
Sure.
There was a CNN post former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert. I don't know when this was taken, but it was interesting for him to say this, and I wanted to get your take, and I don't know if you guys have heard this or not, but yeah, let me play it. And of course, I always hit the wrong button. There we go. I'm going to understand this eventually.
Upon the Israeli government and Netanyahu.
Oh, yeah.
I will say the real enemy that we have is not Iran, which is an enemy. It's not Hezbollah, which is an enemy. Well, it's not Hamas, which is an enemy. The real enemy is from within. The messianic, crazy, extreme groups of Israelis that think that they can kick out the Palestinians and annex their territories. I'm fighting against them, I'm campaigning against them, and I think that this is incumbent upon the Israeli government and Netanyahu. Unfortunately, Netanyahu depends on them politically to the extent that he closes his eyes and he allows them to do things which are totally intolerable and unacceptable.
So, yeah,
I would say.
Okay. Yeah, I did see that, and I showed my wife that. And it was interesting because Mark Levin posted something saying, yes, Benjamin Netanyahu, he needs to worry about the enemies within his country. And I'm sitting there going, and I had already seen that. And I'm like, he is the enemy within. And that guy's right. It's the Messianic Zionists that believe, and he was wrong in the sense that Benjamin Netanyahu's compromising and going with them. No, he's very active with them. They have prophesied over him, like I've talked about before, that he's supposed to be waging these wars to bring in the Messiah, and that the Messiah is going to meet him in his lifetime. And that he's, again, to wage war and get this greater Israel project going. And so, yeah, if you're a secular, quote unquote, Jew in Israel, yeah, Bibi is a big problem because all he's doing is spreading war and violence everywhere.
Which, by the way, the bulk of people in Israel are not religious. And I would say, and I looked at this now, it's been before COVID. So it's been a little while that one of the commentaries that I watched, he said, in fact, the increase of agnostics and atheists in Israel was exploding. So my question to that now, this was 5 years ago, why do they keep voting this guy in then?
It's corrupt. The people that have all the power are the Rothschild Talmudic Jews, even though there's such a small percentage. And, it's interesting. Why would the secular state keep growing? I mean, if this is your example of God through these religious people who spit on Christians and are racist, even though they're not even a Jewish race that's affiliated with any tribes of Israel. But if that is your example of what God is and what religion is, yeah, I probably wouldn't be religious either.
Right.
But yeah, the enemy from within is Benjamin Netanyahu. And I also told Mark Levin, I said, and you know what, Mark? You're an enemy within our country because you support censoring Christians, criticizing Jews, the Talmud, and the foreign policy of Israel. And as long as you do that, you are not a constitutional scholar.
Not at
as
all.
long as you put Israel above the First Amendment, you're an enemy within our country.
Yeah. He's a neoconservative, no question about it. Mm-hmm. That's kind of my thing is, and also a lot of Christians don't realize this. I've said it in my church as well many times, and it's like, what? I'm like, yeah, it's illegal for you as a Christian to walk around, you hand out pamphlets, talk on public streets. You cannot talk about it. You cannot hand out Bibles. You cannot hand out tracts. You cannot do any of that. You will be arrested. You know, you can walk down our streets and downtown areas, and maybe you'll hear, not much anymore, but at least when I was a kid, you could hear somebody getting up there telling you about the world's going to end and all that. You do that in Jerusalem or anywhere in Israel, you will be arrested. And if you're not a citizen of that country, you will, and keep it up, you'll be kicked out. You will be sent back to wherever you're from. And most Christians don't understand that or realize that.
Right.
Yeah, we've got a clip for you from Colonel McGregor here. He is the only one that seems to really be dialed on Israel. And, you know, he's red pilling Tucker on Israel. Let's see if I can find, where is it? Right there. Okay, let's play this. What happened?
Oh, it's
That was
loading.
weird.
It's taking a long time to load.
It's loading. Okay. Oh, it's on Rumble. That's why. Okay.
Man, have y'all seen this story about that 66-year-old woman? Like back in September, she was wearing a size.
No, I don't care about the.
What's your plan when
Oh my goodness! Seriously,
maybe you've stocked up on extra.
that's what I hate about
Sorry.
Rumble. It's just all these.
We should be talking about disengagement. And Zelensky, frankly, the way he was treated, I think President Trump was far too gentle. I'm surprised that two giant Secret Service agents did not come in, pick him up, and remove him from the office. But the way he handled Zelensky is the way he's got to handle Netanyahu. Because if he doesn't, Netanyahu will drag him into the abyss. Because he wants this war in the Middle East come hell or high water. And it's not in their interest.
What war?
The war with Iran, the war with everybody. I mean, you've seen these settings where Netanyahu sits at the table and he's got everybody around him in his cabinet. And he says, this is our opportunity to settle with everyone. We're fighting on 5 fronts. No, we're fighting on 7 fronts. And he starts ticking off, you know, everyone from the Houthis to the militias in Iraq and Syria and now Iran and so forth. If you look at the map today, he's trying to occupy Syria all the way up to the edge of Damascus. And Erdogan, who is a very clever but slippery character, has already said, forget it. We're not going to tolerate that in southern Syria. So he's pushing the envelope to the very edge. In Damascus, there are 3 great Islamic cities in the region. One is Cairo, the other is Jerusalem, and then Damascus. They're not going to surrender Damascus to the Israelis. So whatever happens, the Turks will eventually become involved. They'll march in.
So, I mean, that creates a kind of structural problem because Turkey is a member of NATO.
I don't think so, because I don't think NATO matters.
Maybe you're right.
Does not at all.
For a long time.
Well, it matters in a material sense. We just used the name NATO to wage a war against Russia for 3 years that we lost.
Yeah.
So, but that would be the end of NATO, right?
Well, if what we're talking about will end everything that we're accustomed to, the rules-based order, which just means our global hegemony in military and economic terms. Everyone in BRICS is now being forced together. We're forcing cohesion on BRICS as an alternative to our financial system, which we use to bully everybody. Mm-hmm. So that's all that BRICS is about. But now BRICS is going to become increasingly militarized because we're seen as this rogue state that is willing to put everything at risk in order to retain its position of dominance.
Yeah. So,
yeah, I said that. When we first started, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Tucker keeps getting red pilled on Israel, whether it's John Rich coming on saying that Rothschilds funded Schofield Study Bible, or a Palestinian pastor telling Tucker, hey, it's your eschatology over there in the West that's the problem.
From the world.
Yeah, I think Tucker knows,
and on it goes. And I think Tucker knows more than he lets on, and he lets his guests do the arguing, and he just kind of looks stupid. So I think Tucker knows, but he needs to really be a little bit more bold on it.
I think he is going to. there's no question. I think he's inviting these people on for a reason, so that he can get enough people that all. He's not Tucker is, and really, I don't think Tucker's ever done this. He's never come out on something as big as this first. It's always, after he's interviewed and he's got all these people that he's talked to, because once he comes out, then he's like, well, I've talked to so-and-so and this is why. And I think that's what he's doing here is he's waiting. He knows, he's just waiting until he gets enough people on his side. And, like we were talking about earlier, the shift's happening. I mean, you can see it on X, man. Just, I started liking Stu Peters, and then other feeds started popping up. Like, I don't know if you guys know this guy, that Adam Media. Then he started popping up. And then yesterday after JFK, man, it's just all these people are coming out about, whether they're blatantly saying Israel was involved or whether they're like, wow, interesting. Israel is behind some of this stuff. So, man, it's rapidly increasing. And I think Tucker's just kind of waiting until the right moment for him to finally come out, just like he did with Ukraine and everything else. I think the way he treated COVID was right on, and I think he stood by that from the beginning. But I think geopolitics and other things, he kind of waits until he can get enough information, credible. And I say credible in the sense that people know these people. Because, why else would he have these guys on his show?
Right.
If he didn't believe it or if he didn't care. A thing that popped up right before the show here, before we went live, was I don't know. This was the only one I saw, and I don't know this legitimate targets. I don't know who this is, but I thought this was interesting. I like her, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah.
Don't know how credible this is, but if it is, she's right on target. I don't support going to war on behalf of other countries, and I'm hoping she's standing up in Congress on this, being the first.
Yeah.
Did you guys see this, or have you heard so this is legitimate?
Yeah.
I've seen it. Yeah.
I've seen a few reports on that. And, I wish you would just be really bold and say Jews or Israel,
right,
instead of being so soft and saying any country. No, you name the country. We know it's Israel. Don't be afraid of it.
Our greatest ally.
She's in a tough position because when she walks the halls, all of her colleagues have the Israeli flags on their doors and in their offices. I mean, it's such a cult. AIPAC throws so much money at these people. They can't stay in office without AIPAC's Israel's money. And it is such a crime scene to see.
Oh, and that's another one, I guess it happened after we talked, or was it before and we just missed it in the last episode? But Thomas Massey, Trump attacking Thomas Massey. I think we did touch on that.
We did that in the last show. Yeah.
Okay. So
you picked the wrong fight there.
So I saw another blurb about that when his time comes for his campaign, rerunning for election, that AIPAC is going to support someone else trying to get him out of the.
They've been against him ever since the beginning.
But they've tried three times.
Yeah, they've tried 3 times.
Okay, I didn't know if they had really put their energy into trying to get him out in the last. Okay. Well, Kentucky's not.
But of course, then it's come out that one of his biggest donors is also a Jewish. Is also a Jewish donor. So everybody is like, oh, ha ha, those people that support Massey, look, see, he also has a Jewish backer that is his biggest donor and supporter, kind of thing. So I don't know how much of all of this, and it makes me start going, how much of all of what we are seeing is just nothing but a psyop and nothing but theatrics.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when it comes to Trump, that's absolutely what's going on. You know, for him to attack someone that was really on his side, that's just politics, man.
Massey's never really been on Trump's side.
He supported
Massey's
DeSantis.
yeah, Massey
Which
is,
I thought was
he's a libertarian, so he doesn't support all the big spending. So he's always the one that's saying no, and Trump's like literally calling him. I don't know if you saw the interview with Massey and Tucker, this another one where, or maybe this was the same one, but he's saying, yeah, Trump called me. He says, I'm coming after you hard. I'm going to pay to get you out this time. and Massey's just laughing. He goes, well, maybe he can get me out. He says, but I'm not going to compromise on my values.
No, yeah, I did see that. I didn't know there was a phone call.
Oh yeah.
You know, like I said, a lot of libertarians have gotten behind Trump and voted for him. I didn't know Massey was for Ron DeSantis, man. I didn't like that guy at all. As a governor of Florida, I loved him, especially during COVID. I was like, man, this guy's great. And then he runs for president. And I'm like, man, this guy's terrible. I like what he's doing in Florida, but man, on the national scale, I was like, you got to stop.
Well, let me throw something out here. Another topic, shifting gears. Mr. Biden didn't really sign a lot of his executive orders. And looks like there's going to be a little bit of a legal battle. Babe, why don't you explain what's going on there?
Legal battle. Yeah, apparently, I guess they used the auto pen to sign the majority of all of the executive orders and so many things when Biden was president, pardons and everything like that. And apparently he was not in Washington, either in Delaware, or he was out of the country.
At the beach.
When these were signed, and Trump has come out, he's made several statements about this. And then I guess even Alex Jones has come out making a statement saying that all of these pardons are now in jeopardy. And I think Trump actually said that all of the pardons are now in jeopardy, and he makes them completely null and void. Like he said, as far as I'm concerned, they're completely null and void, and we will be going after you to the fullest extent of the law. So
yeah, they should be. Yeah, when that came out, I thought that, how great is that? You know, I don't care about, really, my only one that really hit me was the J6. I mean, even if Biden had signed that, it wasn't even at the individual name level. It was at the January 6th, however they explained it it was a bunch of lawyer jargon. And I thought, there's no way that's legal.
Right.
And it included, what's her name? The daughter of blonde from Montana or whatever.
No. Dick Cheney's daughter, Liz Cheney.
Yeah, Liz Cheney. And it's just, I was like,
Kissinger.
Out of all of them, I was like, that can't stand. You want to pardon your son and all that stuff, fine. That one just seemed ridiculous. So, I don't want to sit here and say Trump should spend the rest of his time going after all that stuff and prosecuting now that it's been auto pinned. But absolutely, the January 6th crew needs to go down. Without question, they need to go down.
I guess it's safe for us to say now. I mean, we went January 6th. We were there. Obviously, we didn't go in the building.
Yeah.
But we spent that entire 4 years just waiting for the FBI to show up, talking about what are we going to do if, they come after us.
Yeah.
And it was just horrible. And we're just thinking, like, how are we living in the United States having to worry about this?
Yeah.
And so we're all for Trump going after those people for that. And we hope that he does pursue them to the full extent of the law.
As a matter of fact, one of the hospitals I worked at recently as a travel nurse, there was another traveler there who was from a little bit further east, like around the Bristol area in Tennessee. And he was January 6th as well. He and his wife and their neighbors went, and the FBI absolutely did go and raid their neighbors.
Wow.
So
were they arrested?
No, not arrested. But he was He said, yeah, we were sweating it for a long time because we were like, okay, if they raided our neighbors, surely they know that we went with them,
Right. Just
kind
a
of
matter
thing.
of time.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, I can't. First of all, that is insane for us to think that way. And that shows you the Biden administration in the 4 years was not even American. And look,
they stole the election. Everything
they stole it. That's right. Everything just didn't. It was like, this isn't even America. It's like, I don't know what it is. And yeah, to be living in that fear for literally 4 years, that's crazy. And it shouldn't be that way at all.
And to know that there are all kinds of videos, like in 2019, when, what was it, Greenpeace or someone like that went in and took over Nancy Pelosi's office and things like that. I mean,
Yeah.
there are all of these videos of these things happening.
Yeah.
No prosecution, no arrest,
Yeah.
no FBI coming and knocking on anybody's door for that, so.
Right. Well, and we only got pieces of video, and if you took it at face value, it looked like, oh, they've stormed the Capitol and they destroyed everything. And it really wasn't until Tucker came along and said, no, here's all the video and here's what's really going on.
Right.
And then you were just like, and I remember having conversations with people, and a few of them were like, I was like, they wanted to argue. It's like, no. You've got to see all of the video to realize none of that was true.
Yeah. And the FBI kept lying. We can't answer that question. We can't answer that question. And there was more than 26 FBI informants. There were hundreds of them, if not thousands. And they were dressing up as Trump supporters. They were the ones breaking windows. And when they would get in, the other police officers would put them in handcuffs and then take them out. And it was a big joke to these guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are a lot
well,
of
notice
there were a lot of things that we talked about between the two of us as the day progressed. And we actually left early because we just got to the point to where we were
had
like,
a bad feeling.
This doesn't feel right. None of this should be happening. You have to stop and think that all of Congress and all of Senate are there. And yet this is being allowed to go on. Like I said, at some point, and then we kept seeing all of these like staged clashes.
Yeah.
Where it was clearly staged between the police and these people dressed in black, who I can only assume were maybe Antifa or, someone like that. And we were just like, how long are they going to let this go on before they actually retaliate and do something? And so we were like, this doesn't feel right. We're done. We're done with all of this. And we turned around and headed back. But that's when we got a call. I think his daughter Rachel called and was like, someone's been shot. Like, are you okay? We had no idea. We didn't know anything about Ashley Babbitt at that time.
Yeah. I mean, so Nancy Pelosi said no on the security. So did she want this to happen?
She was responsible. She was the one in charge of that whole thing. The buck stopped with her. And she even told her daughter that she was responsible. And that's on tape. So yeah, it was a big setup.
It was. Yeah.
I think so.
I think one of the comments, the comment that I made when we got back and we were doing our family Sunday night thing that we were doing at the time, was it. I think my comment was something like, it is very surreal to know that our own government, our own elected representatives would have thrown the American people under the bus and used us as scapegoats that they did.
Yeah. And you think about where we were by the end of the Biden administration 4 years, even if it was Kamala that we would have gotten another, or even Biden, let's just say another 4 years of that administration. I don't think we would have recovered. Out of all the things now, and Trump's been in now 3 months, 2 months, 3 months. Out of a few things that I don't agree with, I don't think we would ever recover if we would have gotten another 4 years. I think it would have what's left of what we have would be over without question.
I said something recently, and I'm going to double down on it, and that is, if Trump doesn't wake up from this Zionist trap and he plunges us into war, he's going to do more damage than Kamala Harris could have done. And you have to just realize that if this guy falls for the Zionist crap and starts World War III, his legacy is going to be crap.
It will, and I just
more damage to us on the world stage than anyone ever has. And he better wake up to that. Surely he knows that, but he's got all of these Zionist war hawks all around him, everywhere. That guy moves, he has installed one of them.
And that's what I said earlier. Is I said, look, Trump's doing what Trump did in his last 4 years. Attack. He. I didn't agree with him assassinating that general from Iran and all those things. And I think he's doing that again. I just can't see him being the president that started World War III, being that he is the only peace president we've had probably, at least in the last 100 years. So I can't imagine that he's going to flip that easily based on, what Israel's telling him in his ear. I just can't even.
I hope you're right.
I'm not going to believe it.
I hope you're right.
Owen on here on the chat brought up, I didn't realize that, Ehud Olmert is, he was the longest serving PM of Israel. And in that clip we played, he said he was running against him. Now, if this is a new clip, when is this election happening? This may be not a new clip, but I don't know. Anyway, if anybody knows, I'd love to.
I don't know.
I'd love to understand that. Because
well, Jacob,
I don't know that Israel's going to stop doing what they're doing from a governmental standpoint, but at least if you get a PM in there that has a little more clear thought, maybe some of this stuff can change. I don't know.
But how many of these elections are actually truly elections? It's face value only. They already know who they're going to install. That
is true.
Well, let's see here. Jacob, the killer Kilburn says cryptic speeches from JFK prior to the assassination suggest he was going to expose the U.S. government from things they were lying about, and the elites.
The real
I can't
U.S.
see.
rulers.
Okay. You can see the speeches that he had. He talked about the secret societies, which would be those that were run by the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, your Masons. So he was going to blow the lid on the globalists. That's what he's talking about by secret societies. And, he criticized Israel. He criticized the industrial war machine over here, as other presidents have criticized as well.
CIA.
Yeah. So
and don't forget, it was also the Federal Reserve, which when you bring up Rothschild, you start talking about, you can say nothing about Israel and you start bringing up the Federal Reserve and trying to, let's get rid of that. The Rothschilds are going to come in and have something to say about that as well. So,
oh yeah. Like I talked about the revolution that we had, when our colonies were printing our own currency, the Rothschilds heard about it, made some laws pass that the colonies couldn't print their own currency. Our economy crashed by 50%. And then when they started taxing tea and stuff like that, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. But the Rothschilds have always attacked us. After they took over England, they began attacking us the same way by trying to take over the currency. The Rothschilds are classic for saying that. I don't care who your ruler is. I don't care who your president is, your king is. As long as I have the right and the power over your currency, I call the shots. And it's been that way ever since. And so you're right. once we start dealing with the IRS and we start dealing with the Fed, that is when the you know what is really going to hit the fan, because that's always been their power. They can't infiltrate Christianity. They can't infiltrate Hollywood. They can't infiltrate and buy up big media. They can't do any of these things without their money. And you have to cut off that head. All right. Once you cut off that head, you can easily cut off the other ones and they won't grow back. But if they can print endless money.
I don't think they care about the IRS at all, because I mean, you can, as long as the central banks are in place, for taxation is just about control. I mean, let's be real. I mean, anybody that tells you, oh no, we need roads and all this stuff, that's very immature thinking. You don't need taxes.
Somehow roads and bridges were built before we were taxed.
That's right. Taxes, just like guns, it's all about control. They want to take the guns away and they want to tax you. It's control. It's nothing else. Because they could print as much money as they want. They do it. If you look at the total revenue we take in, it doesn't even make a dent in it doesn't even matter. And that's why people now are going, well, forget it. What are we paying taxes for? It doesn't go to anything on a federal level.
Well, it seems to be going to these endless wars in the Middle East that Benjamin Netanyahu and the Rothschilds want. So they're stealing our own money through our taxes, and then they use that money to, get us even more in debt.
Well, and then again, it also goes to all of these, non-governmental organizations, which, actually is our government, because the NGOs are what force our government to do and make certain decisions that they make. But all of our tax money is funneled through these NGOs, and all of these nefarious acts that we're finding out that these NGOs are part and parcel of, and that are funding.
What is an NGO?
Nonprofit organization.
Non-governmental organization.
Yeah.
That's how they launder all their money. It goes through them, and then it always comes back usually to the Democrat Party, after they wash it out in Ukraine or wherever. It always just ends up coming back to them. Amazing.
Right. It's but this is what happens when it's the citizens that are to blame. When you let a government get this big, when you allow, and if you look at it, everything kind of started with the central bank. Now, most people didn't understand that at that time, but as soon as, if you go back and look, I mean, the great book, what was it? It came from Jekyll Island.
Yeah.
About how it got started. I mean, people during that time understood, at a certain level, but your common person didn't know. But all they had to do, because back then they at least taught the Constitution in even the schools, and it was still kind of taught this is the law of the land. If you just understood that, we should have never allowed it. Right. And so now just keep going generation after generation. We just kept allowing things. And we're still doing that. I think maybe we've hit a little speed bump. I wouldn't say a wall. We've hit a speed bump, hopefully, that, and especially, like I say, every time we're on, the internet is facilitating this, and especially X, people are starting to become aware that hopefully we've hit a little speed bump, that this is kind of the precursor into we're gonna finally put that wall up, and it's gonna hit a wall, and we're gonna stop. And things like the IRS and all these NGOs and all this bureaucracy, non-elected alphabet soup organizations, one by one began to fall, because we're seeing, I mean, Doge has done a great job exposing the lunacy that happens when you have unlimited money and it's not yours. So let's just throw it to whoever and whatever we want.
Well, why don't we talk about that real quick? Look at the reaction. Of course, they're going up, blowing up and burning Teslas. And, we're getting right back to the Democrat Party playbook, where you just, Black Lives Matter type deal. You just go out and burn things.
Yeah.
And I just don't think in the end that's going to be a winning strategy for them.
No, people are so turned off. It's just another BLM type thing, Antifa type thing that's happening. And honestly,
George Soros, usually.
And these people that are doing it, there's no facts here. It's just me talking, but they don't understand. It's all you're doing is raising the insurance rates for everybody. I mean, when you start just destroying cars and get it to a certain level, all our car insurance rates are going to go up, and they're already going up anyway because of inflation. And now that I want to buy a Tesla, well, what do you think? Allstate's going to do? Well, okay, that's a Tesla. Sorry, I'm going to have to add an extra 10%.
Well, that's what they're hoping to do. I mean, that's the whole point.
No, I know, but it also affects anybody that's buying a Honda or anything else. The insurance company.
Not as much, I don't think, as probably Tesla, because I think that's the point is to economically destroy
Elon.
Yeah, to destroy Elon at this point, but yeah, it's not going to happen.
And if you've seen the video of some of the people that are doing this, it's like, really?
They're idiots.
Oh.
It scares you that these people are allowed to vote. It's just like,
oh no,
how can that idiot cancel out my vote? It's pretty scary.
Yeah. Did you see the video of Schumer? Chuck Schumer on the View?
No, I didn't see that.
Do you guys have any? If you don't have anything else, we'll play that. As we
go ahead.
Sure.
Government tell me how I should. And you know what their attitude is? I made my money all by myself. How dare your government take my money from me? I don't want to pay taxes. Or I built my company with my bare hands. How dare your government tell me how I should treat my customers, my the land and water that I own, or my employees? They hate government. Government is a barrier to people, a barrier to stop them from doing things. They want to destroy it. We are not letting them do it, and we're united. Okay.
And they're like, okay, all right, great. So yeah, government, that's the point. We hate government. They do nothing. Government is good at one thing, killing people. That's all it's good at.
And taking money.
Stealing and killing.
He has been in government so long that he doesn't even understand what he's saying. And of course, the people on The View, I mean, they're just, you want to talk about morons, man. They're just
idiots.
Morons. But even your normal person, like, Joe Schmo realizes that government's bad. And this guy's like, I mean, he came out on national TV that basically said, government's not going anywhere, and basically called the American people that are, work for a living and, have built up whatever wealth they have, that they're just a bunch of, idiots for doing it. Or what did he say? He mocks the greedy, that we're just greedy people because we don't want government to give our money to government. It's insane. And
how much
honestly,
money does he give to government?
Right. Well, that is DC in a nutshell. I mean, you stay there long enough, you become the monster.
Mm-hmm.
And people like him and Biden, they've just, Biden had a mind left. They become this thing that, like, well, government's everything. No, it's not at all. I mean, and trust me, I'm not for anarchy and saying that we shouldn't have government, but man, it should be so small that it should be insignificant. I mean, I've always said it, presidents should be around to pardon turkeys.
Or you're like Pelosi, who came from, a mafia family who probably figured out very early on that government was just another racket, just another mafia. So,
that was an interesting video. I saw that one.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of blew me away. Yeah, with Hurd's related to what's his name, the governor now.
Newsom.
Aren't they like second cousins or something? Anyway, yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, they keep it in the family.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Well, we're about at that 1 hour mark. Do we have any other comments that were
I'm not
interesting?
sure what to do with the.
That looks like someone is trying to advertise something.
No, it's not. He's telling us.
What? Read it if you.
It says, Mike, did you know that the price of gold on the Treasury books is officially $42.22? So what happens when they sweep the IRA accounts backed by gold and confiscate it from the public, and then do a revolution of a re-evaluation of the currency, and lop a few zeros off the value of the US dollar, and then let the price of gold go wild?
I have no
I
idea.
think what he's saying is, if we go back to the gold, if we went back to the gold standard, that's what would happen. I mean, we're not ever going back to the gold standard. What he's saying is absolutely true. If for whatever reason the government wanted to do that, that's what they do. I mean, FDR did that. He picked a price. I think it was $30 an ounce, $31 an ounce. And he said, this is what we're going to pay you. Give us our gold or we're going to throw you in jail. And if you had it in a bank, in a safety deposit box, boom, it was gone. The bank cut you a check, gave you the money for whatever you had, and you couldn't touch it. That would absolutely happen again. Yeah, and any IRA accounts or anything
That's
like
what
that.
I thought he was saying, because I knew that had happened. So that's what I thought he was saying.
Well, and not just that, but then, I mean, FDR did that, but then it was illegal to own gold, buy gold, until Ron Paul introduced the bill in the late 70s and they got it passed. And, Ron Paul and some others at that time that you could now buy gold again because nobody cared. I don't think we're going back to the gold standard. I'm a big fan of gold, and it broke all-time highs. It went to 3,000, went above 3,000, came back down, but it's broken all-time highs. I'm a big fan of gold. I think you should own the physical though. Forget the IRAs and all that. Just stockpile it and buy a dragon or something to protect it.
Right.
I'm not.
And what do you think about Trump ushering in hyperinflation? Do you think?
I don't think that's happening. The tariffs are going to be a small nuisance, and then they're going to go away. Inflation's already down. The Fed came out today. The FOMC came out today, and they're going to hold rates where they are, which tells you that it's not increasing. I think it's the CPI, which I don't believe in. I think the medium CPI is a better indicator because the CPI, they don't account for the two big things that go up the most is food and energy. We pay the most for, right? When it comes to inflation, but no. Trump's going to get it down from an energy standpoint. But at the end of the day, the president doesn't control inflation. It's controlled by the Federal Reserve. And as long as we're printing money, you're going to have inflation. Can they get it back down to 2%? Nope. The CPI, I think, came down to like 2.8 or something. They'll never get it back. And ask yourself, why 2%? Why did they pick a number like 2%? It doesn't make sense. But no, the Federal Reserve is what causes inflation. The president really doesn't have anything.
Well, I don't really care if it goes back to a gold or silver standard or any of that. That's not my point. My point is that we have to print our own currency. We have to have our own currency, not let the Rothschilds, Rockefeller, private banks run our currency and enslave us through high interest rates. And that is what has to change. Once that cornerstone of their power is taken away and they don't have the money to do what they've been doing for the last few
Federal Reserve, it controls the interest rate. It controls the printing of money. If it goes away, then what happens? Well, okay, what's it backed by? Well, we got to back it by something. It's just never going to happen. I think crypto is the answer to crypto is the new money. I mean, digital gold.
On that note, we're gonna try and have Eric Rice on, and he's an expert on that whole crypto thing.
Great.
I went on his show and we talked for 2.5 hours, Israel, Khazarian, evangelical Zionism, scripture, all that stuff. So we're gonna have him on our show, and you'll like that because you're the finance guy, and you guys can talk and get all geeky.
All right, we'll probably go over an
I'll
hour.
try and follow you guys on all this crypto stuff. But
It'll be the first episode that goes over an hour, and we'll probably go 2 hours.
Yeah, no limit. All right, brother. Well, I think that's about it. Any closing comments?
No, I'm still positive on Trump. We'll see how it goes. I'm still a half glass full guy, so we'll see.
You and my wife both. I guess I need you around in my life. All right, guys. Well, thanks again for joining us for another episode of Talking God and Politics. And we'll see you next week. And pretty soon we will have Eric Rice on. I think he's on vacation right now, but we'll have him on and we'll talk crypto and Bitcoin and all that fun stuff. All right, guys. We'll talk to you later. Take it easy.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.